everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Deep Thoughts, and welcome to the summer season. I'm so excited. As you can see, we have some new B-roll, and shout out to the people whose B-roll I am using from the website Pexels, not Pixels, Pexels. Anyway, I'm so excited. Summer is here. We got tons of new shows. I'm gonna hopefully be getting videos to you guys every single day. I'm really excited to grow the channel, hopefully turn it into something that can sustain me. And plus two, I'm just freaking excited to talk about some summer anime, and we got a good one to start with. Ladies and gentlemen, we are starting with none other than Astra, Lost in Space. This is a show that wasn't initially on my radar, but when I put out the call, this was one of the shows that you guys had asked me to take a look at, so we are gonna go ahead and do just that. Let's go ahead and talk about the premiere episode to Astra, Lost in Space. The double length, actually, premiere to Astra, Lost in Space. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Astra. And yes, I am allowed to make Star Trek references because let's be real, this whole friggin' thing felt like anime meets Star Trek, and I ain't even mad about that. I loved this. I can't stress enough how shocked I was by how much I enjoyed this episode. Like, I wasn't expecting anything. I was maybe expecting like a B at best, right? I was like, this is gonna be like a B. This is gonna be like a B to a strong B plus, or like something like that, right? Or like a strong B to a light B plus, something like that. Like, I wasn't expecting much, but oh my. So when we open, we have this cold open, pun intended, of this pink-haired girl, this mysterious pink-haired girl, Ares, but we don't know that yet. This girl floating in space, and no, screw that. Like, that is one of my biggest fears, is just the idea of like drifting in space, like with no way to stop yourself. That movie Gravity, I don't know if you guys remember seeing that, but that freaked me out. And this cold opening, I was like, oh no. I have a few fears that if I see it on screen, I'm like, no, I don't like it. And one of them is floating through space, which, I mean, I guess, knock on wood, I won't have to ever face that fear. That said, Ares had to let me face that fear. Shout out if you got that reference. But anyway, like, it was friggin' scary, but it set up this like really like cool atmosphere, right? Like this, like, what's going on? Like, what is this mystery? How did they get lost in space? And we see a mysterious figure like reach out to grab her, and then we immediately, it just cuts to the past. We go back a couple days later. So normally I'm kind of against a cold open, but cold opens can work, and here it works brilliantly, because it really pulls you in. You're like, what the hell happened? Because you see like a ship and there's luggage everywhere, and you're like wondering like, what happened? Did she crash? Did the ship get attacked? What the hell happened? Let's find out. And it's, oh man. And I kind of can't believe that our MC, Kanata, is voiced by Yoshimasa Hosoya, who, if you don't know, voices Sosuke from Free. And why do I know that? Because Chris Peanuts told me about that. Not specifically me, but I was watching his stream, and he was talking about how he was worried about the Seiyu choice for Kanata, because Yoshimasa Hosoya, apologies, typically voices characters like Sosuke. And he's that's also how I kind of know him. I only really know him as Sosuke. So it's sort of like, okay, like, I guess he's going to be the strong stoic type if that's his character. But according to Chris, nah, he's sort of like a fun, goofy kind of character. And that is sort of who Kanata is. And not so much that he's a fun, goofy character, but he's this, because he is that, but he's also got the leadership quality. You know what he is? And again, apologies for the couple of Star Trek references, because I'm going to make them. I'm not exactly a Trekkie, but I am a big Star Trek fan. I'm not like hardcore, but I am a fan, and enough to say that Kanata reminds me a lot of Kirk. Now, Kirk isn't my favorite captain. He's my second favorite captain, but my first favorite is Picard, obviously. But like, Kirk's cool, so by connection, Kanata is very cool. He has the sort of like, not suave, but like, because Kirk wasn't exactly like Kirk. I think Kirk thought he was suave, but everybody else was like, not really. Kanata has this sort of, I don't know, he has the heart of a captain. He has the heart of a lion, you know what I mean? Like, he's got that like we're just gonna like I'm gonna charge into the unknown, and I'm gonna keep everybody attempt to keep everybody safe while I do it, and I'm not gonna give up. And that's I don't know, he does kind of remind me of Kirk in that sense. And we do have quite the assortment of people. We have quite the cast here. It does feel again, I'm sorry, it feels like a starship. It feels like Starfleet, where you have a bunch of like a big cast of characters, and they each have like a specific role that they're gonna fulfill. And initially, I gotta say, I wasn't like digging the cast. I had sort of a lousy first impression from the cast, like the beginning. Not Kanata and Ares, but sort of everybody else. I was kind of like, I'm not a big fan. I don't know why everybody's like treating each other like everybody's a jerk for some reason. I like the way they were treating I can't remember the kid. I was like, okay, well, that's a little. By the way, of course, we have a Wesley Crusher in the. Oh my God, I will stop. I'm sorry, I need to stop with the Star Trek references. Anyway, I don't know. The cast. You grow to care about them over the course of the premiere, and it's the character, like the cast themselves, I feel are sort of stock right now. Like they are sort of like generic-y in their stereotypes. Like there's you have like the brainy one, the edgy one, the suave one. Like, you know, you kind of have like the tsundere. You have like the quiet one. So you sort of have like these stereotypes. But I have a feeling just based on how they framed Ares and Kanata, that we're gonna see these characters develop beyond the tropes and beyond the stereotypes, and I'm really excited to see that. Plus, it helps that the character designs are friggin' phenomenal. The whole show, at first I was like, okay, so it feels sort of like familiar, and it's sort of like clean, like everything's like white with like these like see-through screens and like tablets and stuff. It sort of feels like very familiar sci-fi, but it has this like poppy anime aesthetic, right? Like it really pops out against like the typically sort of like clean and sterile sci-fi, and it's my aesthetic, man. Like when I saw it, I was like, I vibe with this. I really like this. And so I was really into it. The only gripe I have visually, because even like the animation at points is so good. And again, it's another situation where they use 3D where they need to. It's very well handled here. But the only real thing that bugged me in terms of the visuals was the aspect ratio. It would sort of like shift, and at first I kind of felt like I knew why it was shifting. Like it would go more cinematic when it had to like be like character based, and then it would sort of like go full screen when it needed to show you the scope of the situation, like how small the characters are by comparison to everything that's going on. But sometimes it felt sort of random, and I'm not a big fan of just picking an aspect ratio and stick with it. It sort of bugs me when movies and anime and shows do that, where they like screw with the aspect ratio. I don't mind having a different aspect ratio, just don't. I don't know, just don't keep flipping it unless there's a purpose to it. And here I feel like maybe there was, but I wasn't really vibing with that, like that specifically. Everything else though, visually, I was in. And even the audio, the music is so well placed, and it's so like it can be eerie when it needs to be, it can be quiet when it needs to be, it can be bombastic when it needs to be, and the sound design, even just like with little things, like when Ares is like, her suit starts to malfunction because she can't, like, because they explain like, oh, her suit's malfunctioning, that's why she can't use her jets to get back to the ship. And you hear it in her voice, like when she tries to talk to Kanata, it sort of gets this like distorted, like you can't really make out what she's saying, and it sounded like it gets all glitchy, and it sounded so dope. But I gotta say, when you think you know where the show is going, because at first I was like, okay, so it's a school trip, like I'm still kind of like, at first I was like, it's kind of weird that it's like a random assortment of students for a school trip. Sort of defeats the purpose of going on a school camping trip, but like, yeah, well, whatever. I was into the premise, right? I was like, okay, so the show's gonna be about like these characters having to like form bonds on this alien planet, and it seems kind of neat. Okay, that's cool. That is so not what happened. Because again, like, and it's really clever with how it pays things off. Because we have that cold open with Ares floating in space, so you assume something's gonna happen on the way to the planet, on the way to the camping planet. But they land, and I was like, wait, what? They land? What? Okay, what the hell? and then that weird entity, like that sphere thing appears, and the art student kid like was like, I'm just gonna touch it for some reason, and they all like start disappearing. And at first I'm like, whoa, are we gonna lose a character like right off the bat? But then we lose Ares, and I was like, oh, okay, there's no way that they're gonna kill Ares. And then of course Kanata goes, and you're like, okay, there's no way. And they show up in space, and you're like, oh snap! So like it sets it up. It sets up a Chekhov's gun, again, Star Trek, but it pays it off in a really interesting way, and I really dug that. Same thing with the hand holding, where like Ares grabs the tsundere girl's hand and says like, let's be friends, like towards the beginning of the episode, and then by the end, when the sister holds her hand, it makes her flash back, and then it makes the brainy guy like looking at the tsundere girl, like staring at her sister holding her hand. That all of that connects to make the brainy guy realize like, oh snap, we can actually form like a rope made out of people, and we can get to them. Oh my god. And it was really well, oh my god. So not only are the visuals on point, not only is the audio on point, and the seiyu's doing a great job, but the writing's on point. One last thing I gotta point out, and it's the biggest reason why Kanata reminds me of Kirk, I hate that word, hopeless. Like when he says like, I don't like that, I hate that word. All I could think of was, I don't believe in the no-win scenario. Tell me that's like, do not tell me that this is not anime Star Trek, and don't even try to tell me that you ain't here for it. This episode was so dope. I don't know. I could keep gushing. I could keep gushing about this show. I don't even know if I really took a breath through most of this. I was so impressed. And let me tell you, this is the sign of a good show, right? The sign of a good show is where the show like starts to wrap up and you go, wait, we're at the end already? It makes it doubly impressive that we get to the end of this episode. I have the thought of, we're at the end already, and I go to check the time, and I had no friggin' idea that it was double length. I had no idea. I just clicked play and I started watching. I had no idea that it was double length, and I was so invested that I didn't even realize that it was double length until I noticed that we were wrapping things up, and I went to go check the where we were and the time code on the episode. And I realized, I was like, wait, this thing is 45 minutes long? I had no idea. It felt like 5 minutes had passed. Like I was so glued in, like like everything about it. I'm just so impressed. You know what? I'm gonna wrap up my thoughts on this episode and just say that this is the premiere to beat. I know that the season just started, but I am so friggin' impressed with this show. This easily gets an A. It would have got an A+, but the characters at the beginning were a little too annoying, like a little too mean to each other, and the aspect ratio was kind of irritating. But man, it's so close to an A+. It's so close to being like friggin' perfect. This premiere is, I can't stress enough how much I loved this. With that said though, everybody, that's gonna wrap up today's video, so I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, then be sure to hit that like button and share the video around on the internet, because that would be super rad of you. And if you're new to the channel and you want to check out more from me, get excited for the summer anime season, then by all means go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to join the good ones. And as always, before we go, I have to give a big shout out to the good folks over on Patreon, namely those in the Earl Grey tier: Dominic, Urza, No For Nothing, Maria Teresa, Omner Garamond, Opinionated Slime, Shadow Creative, Sipco Games, Tristan, and Veridin. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. If you want to help me like make this channel into something I can do full time, then by all means, I highly encourage you to check out the link in the description to our Patreon. It would be super appreciated. With that said, everybody, if you can't tell, I am so excited for this show. I am so excited for summer. I'm in a great mood. I don't know. I'm just in a really good mood. And until our next meeting, you stay rad and don't scary.